Hello, everyone. Dr. Michelini here to walk you through an introduction to the tragedies that we will cover this semester in Shakespeare. So let's dive in. First of all, we need to understand what a tragedy is to understand the ways in which Shakespeare himself was playing with this genre. So, pre Shakespeare, the general understanding of tragedy was defined by Aristotle. Okay. So he is saying that the tragedy should be an imitation of life, right? Through the crafting of the plot at an appropriate scale. And what he defines this as is the following. So there either needs to be a fatal blindness or defect in character that brings the hero to destruction. So the character is, in some way flawed. A sudden reversal of fortune. So things are going super well for someone and then they are not going well at all, or a powerful moment of recognition in which ignorance gives way to a terrible knowledge, meaning like ignorance is bliss, the character's sort of going along, everything's fine, and then everything goes to crap, right? When they realize that, oh my gosh, I didn't know, right? Um, this experience should be intense and emotional for the audience when they experience the fear that the characters are going through, or they have an intense pity for them, okay? So this is what defines a tragedy. And this is pretty set in stone. Now, Shakespeare was known for sort of mucking with this a little bit or messing with it. People said that he had these mongrel tragic comedies, meaning he's mixing these genres in ways that others were not at the time. Okay. So his comedies are shot through with pain and death, which was unusual, and his tragedies had comic relief. He did not follow a specific formula every time. There was a little repetition, but all his tragedies move towards an end in death, and all of his comedies move towards an end in marriage. Heroes in his tragedies are often killing machines. And because he's sort of mixing genres, it's difficult to categorize some of his plays. So you might see different scholars categorize his plays differently. Oh, he had 30 of this kind, 15 of this kind, and somebody else says no. I would say it's 17 of tragedies, and 10 comedies or whatever. Okay. He did receive some criticism for this. So you can see here, Sir Philip Sidney, poet and aristocrat at the time, said English playwrights mingle kings and clowns and do not even manage to write right tragedies or right comedies. So because he's mixing genres or categories here, people didn't always like that. Of course, today we still mix things the way that Shakespeare did. We have that comic relief and we enjoy it. We have comedies that have pain and death and we enjoy it. So in a way, he's doing something perhaps more sophisticated. Perhaps more sophisticated. Okay. Something that Shakespeare does in his plays is he addresses a lot of intense topics such as racism or sexism, and you'll definitely see this in both his tragedies and comedies. Okay. Some argue that what makes Shakespeare's tragedies so heartbreaking is the characters are trying to create a world that's not yet possible. So there's an interclass love interest in Romeo and Juliet. There's an interracial love interest in Othello. There's women who are trying to do things that sexism at the time would not necessarily allow in real life. And so there's a possibility here that Shakespeare is envisioning a better world. There's also a possibility that he's just driving home the point that, like, if you try to cross the boundaries of society, then bad things will happen to you. So there, you can decide for yourself if you think Shakespeare was pushing for something better or not. Kiernan Ryan, who's an emeritus professor of English literature, said Shakespeare makes it equally plain that there's nothing to stop human beings putting an end to such tragedies by changing the world that produced them and changing themselves in the process. So you will get to see some of this for yourself. We are going to read or watch the tragedies Othello and Macbeth this semester. I hope you enjoy.